Look for me in the eye of the storm.
Appreciate you guys, man. I do.
Yeah. So B, we go way back.
Yep.
You made an album.
Yes.
What's the name of this album? Because I've heard a few tracks and they're fuego.
It's about his father. It's about his father. Can you
Yeah.
give us a little backstory on all that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the album's called The Long Goodbye, and the album is essentially does a couple things. It's a tribute to my dad. It's an instruction manual on how to become a caregiver for your parents, because they don't tell you how to take care of your parents. It's also a battle album. It's me beefing with Alzheimer's. Everybody got time to cancel something? Let's cancel Alzheimer's.
Right.
And it's an explanation. I just walked away from rap at my height, and I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I kind of pulled a, special ed, Roxanne Shante, Master Ace. I didn't explain.
Yeah.
And through that journey, when my father first got sick in 2005, maybe it was the alcohol, maybe it was the weed, maybe it was the environments I was around. I felt that I was responsible. I took my dad's diagnosis as if I had done it.
Which is ridiculous.
But at the time it made perfect sense. It was,
right.
I made too many raps about them who control the world, and that's what their clapback was, to take my dad from me. Or maybe if I hadn't spent so much time rapping, I would have had a PhD in biology and a medical degree, and I could have cured my dad. You could go down these lines. I'm sure there's things as a parent you deal with where you're like, man, I should have never let my kid go outside and see what grass looks like. You know what I mean? Now they're sneezing. This is all my fault, right? And then you hold on, you go, wait a minute. You're not in control of everything. But at that time, that's how I felt.
Right.
And I had to learn overnight. Like, I wanted to be this great caregiver. But I was also recognizing, if I leave San Francisco at 5 a.m. to get over to Oakland to take my dad to an appointment at Oakland Kaiser by 8, and I keep arriving 45 minutes late, after the third time, you got to look in the mirror. Right. Because this rap stuff got you up to the middle of the night. You're a drug addict. Now, sure, you ain't shooting up heroin. You ain't popping pills. You ain't smoking crack. But you drink. You got to remember that. You drink and you smoke. That's a lot of hip hop, right? The party starts at 11, ends at 6. Studio sessions, managing rappers who do not care about your time. You know what I mean? And I had to understand and unwind those skills. And I felt so unprepared. I remember I was always trying to inject my dad, and I kept missing the vein. And I kept thinking to myself, why did I spend this time doing this dumbass? So I completely packed up. I shut down my label. I shut down everything. I packed up all my stuff. I put it away. I'll never rap again. And then my dad's a deep dude. He was a civil rights attorney. And he is the reason why we know the term redlining in California. Him and his brother brought King to California. Him and his brother were feeding the United Farm Workers, and were secretly smuggling money and food to Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez. He was just my dad was literally, the Black Panther. And so there came a point where I told my dad, I remember I was working my job, and I was at like a corporate kind of retreat, and I was crying on the phone, like, Dad, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I don't care. I was talking some grief shit. I was like, I don't care if I have to sell liquid cocaine. I will find some cure for you in Europe. You know what I mean? Yeah. My dad was like, and I'm sure you relate to this. My dad was like, I might let you take care of me if you sign a contract. And he gave me some bullet points. And the bullet points are all in the song Cliff. But one of the bullet points was I had to go back to business school. I dropped out of business school. I had to go back and get my MBA. And at the time, I thought he was punking me. I think now I realized that he wanted me to find my true potential. And he also wanted to make sure that I didn't give up my life taking care of him. that I had goals for myself, that I didn't get so lost in being his caregiver, I didn't have a place for Brett. And so I went back to business school, and I was balancing taking care of my dad in Berkeley, taking care of my crippled mom in San Francisco. I was working on trying to get a half-black president elected. I was doing hella homework, and I was launching a restaurant, which was my source of income. So somewhere along the line of 2007, 2008, I just decided it's not worth it to sleep anymore, because my dad's going to the hospital all the time. If I'm going to get woken up at 2 a.m. to take him to the ER, and I'm there for 6 hours, and then I got to go back to class, why even sleep? So my imagination started getting stretched out because I wasn't sleeping. And I don't know what I said, but something around finals. And oh, also, by the way, 2007, if you remember, it was the Great Recession. The economy was melting. And none of us in our life had seen that like that. It wasn't like 9/11. This one was something different, right? And I was watching all this wealth, all the money that I had stored up, that I was just paying hand and fist. And you guys, you have family, you've done medical bills. You think you've made it until somebody gets sick, and then you're like, you just watch that eat your bank account. And I must have said something to my guy Concepts and my guy Peekaboo, both from Comedic Sons, because on the same day they both sent me an email with an attachment and said I plugged up the old machines and they still have dust on them, and I looped something up for this, and I just want you to write to me. And that one of those first songs was Fog on the Bridge. The other one was So Hard. And because those came at that time, they said, I don't care what you do it, I just want you to write. And I didn't know what to do with it. And so at first, Fog on the Bridge became this idea, and I don't recommend it to people, I'm just being honest. I learned that I could leave the Excelsior district of San Francisco and get to Oakland across the bridge in 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah. I'm sure you could figure this out. And that's what the song came out was, I'm the fog on the bridge. I could go in and out of cars. I know how to get there, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Because who are you when you think this person is very sick and could die today? And I was just running on adrenaline. And after a while, and then one of my friends, my god brother, Kenny, he was trying to get me centered because I must have been doing something a little crazy. And he's like, man, I need you to start learning some Tai Chi. So then that became the attitude. Okay, well, if I'm going to rap, I was just being in the car. And I started writing bars down again. And those bars were reflective of going in and out of traffic and being the literal fog on the bridge. And that's where that kind of song came from. And as that evolved, I came up with certain other ideas. I had 4 songs written maybe. It was just going to be a little EP. I didn't even know if I was going to put something out. And then my father passed away in 2010. And I was really, I don't think depressed was the right word. I struggled. I struggled very hard. And I got very sick. I got big. I got like 280 pounds. I think there was weeks at the time. I'll send you the pictures where my wife would just, like, I remember her just being like, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was like, hey, do you trust me? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you really need to shower. The smell of this is terrible. Like, I was just literally sitting in bed, chain smoking, watching like The Wire and Battlestar Galactica.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I was not good. And then we moved. I started working, for a venture capital firm, making a lot of money. We moved to be closer to my job because driving hurt. And my wife is a classic pianist, and she couldn't bring her piano. And I felt bad. I felt super guilty. And so I said, well, I've got this ASR 10. I got these equipment. Why don't you, I don't know, you can play piano on this. And I came home one day and I'm like, what the heck is that? And she's like, I made a beat. And it made me want to rob somebody. And that's when I knew that I was like, this is special. And so she came with a proposition. She said, I really want you to get this out of your system. And if I make a bunch of beats, will you write to them and talk about your experience with your dad? And that's how The Long Goodbye came about.
That's how this happened, you and your wife?
Yeah, my wife produced 99% of it.
Come on, man.
1% is the comedic.
Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, can we get a round of applause for that?
My wife is the words. She produced that.
Wow.
And it was very special because I would write something to like a beat, and she kind of would Kanye me. I'd write to one beat, and then I'd go record it, and then she'd go back and literally compose the song to everything I wrote, word for word, tone for tone, and redo it. And then you'd come back and you listen to it, and you're like, that's not what I recorded. That's incredible. That's so ill. Yeah, and it was a special process, but it took, that was a lot of what the long goodbye came out of, was that double entendre of, because the long goodbye is a code that people use in the Alzheimer's community to talk about the disease, because you don't lose a parent overnight. It's not like cancer. It's a long, long time. You wake up one day and the very person who taught you how to eat doesn't know how to chew, right? And so I wanted to talk about all these experiences. And, we keep hearing this mythology about hip hop. Like, I'm doing this. I'm slinging this crack. I'm popping these pills. I'm doing all this because I'm trying to take care of this parent. Cool. What about you? What about the effect of your body? How many more people from this party are we going to lose? And so I think that became a huge factor for everything. So that's what a lot of the long goodbye was about. And then also, I got to be honest, there was an ego somewhere. Still, I don't know, Mike Tyson talks about that, right? Like the war gods woke up his ego. There was some part of me that kind of wanted to let dudes know,
You still do this.
Yeah. Don't, you need to be scared when you go to sleep. I can still come up there and do that to you. Right. I can still, I can still GSP you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can take that belt. Don't get cocky. I see the stuff you say. And rappers know rap. I don't know. Did you ever rap, Ern?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Rappers talk to each other, right?
Absolutely.
Rappers drop subliminals, right? Jay-Z and Ghostface had a whole career dropping subliminals on each other, right?
Yeah.
You hear it and you go, oh, you think you're safe. You think you're safe. Right? So I wanted to remind them.
Raekwon and Biggie.
Raekwon and Biggie. Jay-Z and Ghost. Right? Yeah. Nas and Memphis Bleak, right? Yeah. I wanted to remind certain folks that I could Thanos your ass at any moment. I could God Emperor Doom at any moment and come out of somewhere and be like, no. I got to keep you honest. So there was some aspect, and my hope is like, there's a room and a realm, because I think we have a culture that doesn't celebrate getting older.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why
they don't embrace it
at all. I mean, that's not my words. That's Combat Jack. Reggie Osei came up with this. This is the only art form where, like, all of us like, oh my God, Rolling Stones is coming to town. You know what I mean? People will pay $500 for those tickets. Jay-Z's coming to town. You get that old motherfucker still rapping?
He washed. He's not relevant.
All right.
Yeah.
Rather than being honest and saying most rappers don't have a good live stage. So I wanted to inject a new idea and add to something, and say, we need to start talking about that and recognize what it's like to be in the Masters League and to make that kind of music. It can't always be a party, right? You got to have some stuff we can play at the cookout. That's why I made clean versions. And my hope more than anything is for somebody who's starting this journey to take care of their parents, that they know that they can pop on this album or any song at any given time and get energy from it, right? Like we all need something to work out to. We all need something to get to work to. I want people to be able to have that music to know, like, yo, like case in point last night, my mom had a surgery this morning. And I had to get up at 4 a.m. and help her drink some stuff so she could be ready for the surgery. Where does that energy come from? Right? I wanted to be able to give that type of soundtrack to folks to instantly know that they're not alone and build a community and have that combo. So that's where a lot of those influences came in.
Who are your influences coming up? Because to me that takes me to a special place in my life.
Who are my influences coming up? Now, I don't know if it was that song is what brought me there, but I think you can hear there's a reference clearly. My father, a black man from Florida who moved to California in the 50s. My mom's a white woman from Mountain View. Shock G was just like, I'm just a Berkeley kid. Shock G was just like, yo, incredible influence. Digital Underground was all, I mean, I'm definitely a hardcore Wu-Tang fan, but Digital Underground was my Wu-Tang before that. So I think the idea about, how do I want to put it, lyrical pop locking is the only way I can really describe it. I've always been interested in people like that, with that flow pattern. And then technically, my older brothers, I guess if I'm Gen Xennial, my older brothers who put me up on music, they were definitely Gen X, right? So these are dudes who are listening to Melly Mel, LL, Kumo D, right? And of course, as you know, I come from a martial arts family. So for them, it's got to be battle MCs, because it's like, it's got to be the, Iron Robe Yim versus, Feng Sayuk kind of styles to make the greatness.
I mean, that's what I heard a lot. I heard like, it was like Wu-Tang. It sounded like some old school Wu-Tang. I mean, when you say Shock G, I heard that a lot in the last verse.
Definitely. Which I don't know if people just don't get it yet. And I even tried to reference it, like Humpty Hump Shotgun, do what you like. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it evolved. Cube was for a long time was there. I think when I shifted into, how do I put it, competitive rapping. So I think there's some background. So I went to Berkeley High.
Mm-hmm.
Couple big names have come out of Berkeley High. Shout out to my young ones, Little B, G-Eazy.
Yeah, young B, Lil B.
Yeah. I mean,
Young
Comedic Sons definitely made it cool
L.
to do different type of rap for them. So we opened the door. I'm glad they can make their money. It's good to have children. I know you know what that's like. One day I hope to have physical children. But I think when I got into competitive rap, it's funny. Our school had an academic club called Live Lyricist Society. And it was run by a bunch of Black teachers who were college students at Cal, but they got emergency credentials to teach at Berkeley High. And so they had a rule. If you kept a 3.5 and higher, you didn't get arrested, and you get kicked out of school, they would teach you how to rap. And boy, yes. Wow. And to get in, you had to freestyle. And so the varsity guys would serve the JV. The JV would serve, the freshmen. We didn't call it that, but you got your butt handed to you.
I remember those days. When I was young.
Yeah.
The people who couldn't rap, they didn't rap.
Right, because go back to what you really do. You're a drug dealer. Yeah. You're a football player. You're a ladies' man, right?
Be that.
That's that battle scene. And you guys contextually, I don't know if your audience knows, there was a time, and it's hard. I try to explain this to my wife. There's some good films out there about it, but there's a time on a weekend in Telegraph, on the corner of Durant and Telegraph, right? It's like 40,000 people on Telegraph. That was the first Friday all weekend for many years. And we ran, those corners were, if you came to those corners and you tried to rap, you needed to be competitive. Or you were going to lose your shoes, or your chain, or your Walkman, your dignity, or your consciousness. And so coming out of that, it evolved my knowledge out of the rap that I was in love with. So I think somewhere around late freshman year, 10th grade, I was always listening to I had my hands in two worlds. I was either into really innovative punk rock coming out of Berkeley, because I would go over to the Gilman, right? So to put in perspective, Primus, right? Metallica, Green Day, right?
Yeah.
Or I was really into Berkeley, Oakland, hip hop kind of stuff. Obviously Cube. And it's funny, but I always tended to be a rebel. Everybody, I remember freshman year, 1991, everybody loved Tribe Called Quest. I found it redundant. I felt like everybody dressed like Tribe Called Quest in Berkeley anyways. I was more into Black Sheep. I was more into De La.
I mean, they was all in the same. They were the same
crew, right? Yeah. But I remember when I saw Busta Rhymes on Arsenio, And I remember them holding the mic while he's doing the Scenario remix, and he's changing his clothes and reversing them as he raps. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? And then so obviously between that and reading hella comics, reading hella science fiction, being hella into role-playing games, being around people who wanted to build computers, I was always interested in people who felt like, you know, I was always into people who I felt like were sort of futurists, who were kind of like, who were going to be an innovation. It wasn't always going to be great. It was futurist. And that's why I think I always held that loyalty for Shock G and Digital Underground. And then I heard, because, you know, we were trying to get signed or whatever, and there's a whole other story about publishing and a lot of our songs getting jacked and us winning lawsuits. And then I met Reg and Saphir the Saucy Nomad. And I heard that type of flow, that on beat, off beat. And I was like, this working class, this was like, my dad owned this. My dad was a civil rights attorney, but he also owned a piece of this blues club on Telegraph called Casey's, your place too. Now it's called OVO, right? Oakland's very own or something, whatever. Some Drake thing. So most of the days, I know I had to get shots of flesh, lick some shots. Most days it was like blues. You would see Bobby Bland there. You would see the greats, John Lee Hooker.
Heart of the city,
Yeah, once in a while you would see they would throw a hip hop party. And so when I heard Saphir on the third Digital Underground album, right? To me, it was like he was doing what Pac was doing, but he had taken it to another level. He was doing the blues, you know? It ain't easy to be a digi with an itchy trigger finger. I want to make dead ringers constantly elevating on the flow. I feel like a steel belted radio tire when I
appreciate you bringing Saphir up on this show.
That's just
you know, people forget
that's
about
just the
Saphir.
OG. That's just the God. That's the big homie.
How is he doing?
I haven't checked. I know that he was, before the pandemic, he was in the county hospital dealing with brain cancer, and he also had the spinal injury. I can only imagine what that's been like with COVID. I'm afraid to ask. I hope we're giving flowers. We're talking about new rappers who've just been around and we get all amazed. I'm hoping, shout out to my guy, Saeed, Balance, Walt and I were talking about trying to get some money together, fundraise to do a documentary about the influence of Hobo Junction on Bay Area rap. Maybe I think I need to involve it. My thought is maybe this needs to become some kind of Netflix documentary, because people just don't know, man. People just don't understand what we put out there in that, you know, in the 90s. And I guess in another aspect, so it's funny. I remember being into Saphir heavily, and then really getting cocky with battling and going to other places. And I got recruited into this crew called Miscellaneous. And that crew was spanned. It had a group from Berkeley High, a group from Oakland Tech, a group from Logan and Fremont. And that's how I met Mixed Practice. And that's when one of my closest friends, you know, Walt Liquor, Clips 4270, you know? So we just known each other since high school, right? Just on some Wu-Tang, you know, bringing those sides of the Bay together. But I remember rolling with him one day, and I was really into Saphir. He was really into Saphir. He had a personal connection, and I was playing him To Whom It May Concern. And he said, yeah, that's raw, but you know about Volume 10. And when I heard Hip Hopera, my head turned around, that album. Because I already loved Cube. I could immediately hear it. I could go, oh, okay, that's where Cube got that from. Don't try to claim that style. You're a liar. That's on fire. I was like, I'm loud. He's loud. I love this, right? This was like, you know, our greatest tragedy. We never got like a Busta Rhymes, Old Dirty Bastard, Volume 10 supergroup.
Yeah, that would have been great.
But that was fantastic. So that was an influence. And then I think the one that really locked me in, and I think the reason why was my grandfather started a town in Florida called Jupiter. It's the black side of West Palm.
What was it called?
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Yeah,
Like
it's the black side of West Palm Beach.
Okay.
And very prescient, tiny little man from the Jim Crow. And he had come out of folks who had come down from South Carolina, had stopped at like Rosewood. And if you know the history of Rosewood getting massacred and people ran, he went and started Jupiter. And he was just a fantastic human being. Just this tiny little dark midget who just didn't take nothing from nobody.
Why you gotta call a man a dark midget though?
He was a very short 4-foot man. My dad was maybe 5'1". I'm 5'9". But the presence, tiny people when they spoke, you know, he was in these Jim Crow towns, you're not allowed to have mayors. You have the boss. And they called my grandfather the king. And he had this gene, and you know, he was the one when they decided, hey, we're gonna kill some black people today. He was the one who would stand at the line, and the sheriff would come up, and the sheriff would slap him in the face, and he'd take that, and the sheriff would leave, and the lynch mob would leave and go back to the white side of town.
Wow.
He was that guy. Ran the NAACP, grew his own farm, turned his farm into the store. If you'd called him a social entrepreneur, he would have been insulted. He was just about taking care of these families. But he sent his girls, he had 5 girls, and he sent them to New York because he felt that men who would respect women with an education lived in New York. And so one of these aunts lands in this little place, you know, daughter of a king, so where else were you supposed to live in New York? You know, Queens. And so I had a cousin who was always sending me tapes, right? I'm glad you know the reference. And OC's Time's Up. OC, that flow. OC's Time's Up. Just do that, the minerals and vitamins, niacins and iacins.
Yeah.
That was, and there was a guy, one of my older brothers in rap from a crew called Cytoplasms named Gray Fox. He had that flow. And I always kind of felt like Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville was kind of the queens of the Bay Area. And it was just that consistent, you know, it was rap boxing.
Back then, yeah. That's
what I loved about it. It was, you know, land 6 jabs and then the cross hook, you know, it was just consistent, you know.
Yeah. You know what, I did think about Wu-Tang when I first heard Fog on the Bridge, especially from, you know, that being one of your influences, and how back in the day I described to Ern, you know, like it felt for me, even though I wasn't an MC, it felt like with every rapper being so distinct and you immediately knew their voice, everybody had their own original style and flow, and it felt like, you know, everyone was a samurai. Like everyone, you know, you had to be ready at all times. And the moment I heard Fog on the Bridge, I was just like, oh, the Shaolin technique is very good. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a longer story to that, but I think, I mean, it's funny, I haven't talked about this in so long, Ern, so I'm glad you asked, because the more I think about the influences, right? And then later, I was part of my crew, and then you influence each other, right?
Right.
Right. Another person I really loved was Wise Intelligent from Poor Righteous Teachers.
Poor Righteous Teachers. I remember Poor Righteous.
Yeah, just the consistency. Andre 3000.
Of course.
I mean, the Gemini thing, Andre 3000, I think has saved my life a couple times. I remember getting arrested and hearing some of the things he said, especially him and CeeLo, especially. Right?
CeeLo's good.
CeeLo, I remember hearing that. I don't recall ever graduating at all. Sometimes I'm just disappointed to y'all. Every day I say, you know, that like Get Up, Get Out. Right. That was just like, yo.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Come on, man. I remember like, yo, they've decided I'm not going to finish high school. nobody talks to me in my first name.
Right.
They'll talk, well, you know, they'll talk about me in third person and they've mapped out my future. And I was like, yo, that's not going to be me. I'm never going to let anyone call me stupid. I always give credit to CeeLo for that one. I think there's some Scarface in there too. There's some Scarface because my dad hated rap, but he loved that song. He loved Minds Playing Tricks on Me.
Oh yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, come on. And then later in life, I found different influences of what I would say I am. So I feel like this album, when I was writing it, was very much like, it's like a super group between Sean Price and Devin the Dude.
Mexicali Rose.
Do you know about that one? Do you know about that bar in Oakland?
Yeah, I know about that. Hey, I can't, some, me and my lady.
I understand.
My lady used to live right next to it before we started conceiving.
Right, I get it. My dad used to hold court there from 1983 to about 1998. And so that song is actually about an incident where I came to take my dad to get a check for a colonoscopy. And I must have moved too fast or something because he grabbed a knife and stabbed me. And then, and then I had to basically do a takedown to get the knife away from him. And because the disease is so nasty, when he saw me on the ground bleeding, he immediately switched and assumed somebody broke in the house and attacked me. So he immediately went from, I'll kill you, to, someone stabbed my son, oh my God, help. And so, had to go out to get in the ambulance and go out to Kaiser Richmond, because that's the only one open on a Saturday. And
So
get
you had to
stitched.
drive. Oh wow.
Yeah, an ambulance. And just the irony of this, my dad, he's on one side of the ambulance and they're taking care of him, and I'm on the other side, and I'm over at Kaiser, and they're going to X-ray me to make sure I didn't get punctured to any internal organs, and just dealing with that, and then realizing, wait a minute, my dad has Kaiser, I don't have health insurance, I pay for him, I can't pay for me.
Right. Damn.
And just dealing with that concept of like the history of that bar and how people used to get really crunk there, and that idea. But I think also the music to it was very much the culture I think we know, where, Oakland, California, where, the banda and the 808 go hand in hand.
That bar just closed last year.
Yes. Yeah. I'm actually trying to work with some people to try to reopen it and turn it into a little mini mall.
Mexicali Rose memories.
Yeah. How many tracks are on the record?
So there's 18 tracks on the record.
Actually, I thought it was 19.
I was gonna say, well, there's 18 tracks because I came up in a time where people believed in things called supreme mathematics. If you know, you know.
Hey.
Okay.
I don't know today's mathematics.
It's knowledge born. All born. All born to wisdom. If you're awake, I probably did that one wrong too. I always, Comedic Sons albums always had a bonus track, and that had to be the bonus track. So there's 19 songs, but you're going to struggle to find, if you actually get the album, you'll struggle to find the hidden bonus track. Let's put it that way. By the way, all proceeds, I have a job. I'm okay. I'm not doing this because I want to make money. All proceeds of this will go, I don't know if you guys could see this. This is Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay. They're a fantastic organization in Berkeley, where the people of basically they have day programs where you can drop off your parent with Alzheimer's and they'll babysit them, kind of like a daycare. They're a nonprofit. Their constituency is 99% people of color, 80% Black, 100% like lower income. So these are people who cannot afford a nurse. Like imagine you drive Uber all day and your mom has Alzheimer's. This is somewhere you could drop them off for free, and they're being engaged and talked to and loved while you go and drive an Uber. So I'm donating 90% of the proceeds from this project to them.
Mr. Sweet, The Long Goodbye.
Yes, sir.
And you can get it on all streaming platforms.
All streaming platforms. Apple Music, Spotify, Bandcamp. SoundCloud. And if we do enough of this and the demand is great, I may do some. I may make some vinyl. I may go to Bandcamp.
There you
Oh,
go.
that'd be dope.
We'll see what happens. Oh, and December 4th, we're having a virtual release at ASAB. If you want to come out, great, come. Masked up and social distance. If you want to do it online at Twitch, we'll do that. We're trying to keep it safe. Again, the idea is just to talk to people about why I did the music.